So, I want to start this off by telling a little story. It goes a little something like this. I had a 1981 Virago. It looks something like this one right here, but it was more stock looking. This is more messed with. The bike that was stock, I have ripped apart. As you can see, here's part of the frame, the rear end, box of miscellaneous parts, the stator and cover, and I have the engine wrapped up out here, which I'm also disassembling. There's my buddy. The engine's under that tarp. So I bring the bike to a local shop here in Warwick, Rhode Island. A gentleman named Alex then spends 2 years telling me he's working on the bike's running, oh, it's running good, but now the gas tank's leaking, which this was the gas tank that he was talking about right here. And as you can see, he told me that this gas tank was sent out to be welded because it was leaking. Okay, this is the gas tank. Let me show you. Supposedly, it had been leaking somewhere in here, right? Well, now, if he had sent it out to be welded, don't you think there'd be some grind marks? Or maybe some new welded marks? Or maybe some fresh paint or primer to cover supposed welds? There's none of that. Now, mind you, this is after buying a $1,500 part bike off of him that someone tried turning into a cafe racer, which was also an 81 Virago. So 2 years spent, shit tons of texts, and a bunch of BS later, I show up to his shop telling him we need to talk face to face because this has gotten out of control. He then has my bike, the part bike, and this bike sitting there. And he tells me, oh, my bike, the original one, I couldn't get it running. There was something wrong with it, blah, 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 blah. But hey, look at this bike. This bike runs, and you can have this one for the summer, and blah, 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 blah. So needless to say, I was so annoyed that I told him the $1,500 I gave him for the part bike, call it $1,500 towards this thing, and we'll be square. So, took this thing home, rode it for approximately 67 miles, and the front cylinder dropped. So now, I bring it home, I empty the oil. This thing had 6 quarts of oil in it. It's only supposed to hold 3.5, 6 quarts. So then I dump all the oil out, put a fresh filter in, fresh oil. It starts to run, drops front cylinder again. So then I replace the coil, spark plugs. Now, it'll run off of both cylinders, but it runs horrible. It's running like garbage. And I have a feeling this gentleman knew this. And I have a feeling that's why it had so much oil in it. So needless to say, if you're going to deal with a bike shop, please stay away from Apponaug, Warwick, Rhode Island. A place called Performance Cycle Center. Because this is the type of stuff that you end up with. So needless to say, this bike's trash. But, you know, story's not that bad in the end, because under that right there is a brand new 05. Well, not brand new, but it's an 05 Sportster 883 with only 6,400 miles on it. So that's my new baby. But buyer beware. Just be careful, man, because 2 years, $1,500, a lot of text messages, and a shit ton of aggravation, and all of that for nothing. So be careful.